Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Today we have two stories for you. We'll start with one small revenge against Karen. The second story will be about revenge, much more serious. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. A total Karen got what she deserved. I'm a truck driver and I deliver goods to a chain of stores. Not all the managers are very nice. This time I got to deal with a total Karen for the second time. My job is to get the pallet inside the store, just across the threshold, and that's it. Most ask us to put it somewhere specific, and usually we're willing. This woman is no exception. She asked if I would put the pallets around the corner a few feet away from the door. I do this, and the first gets picked up by her staff. I put the second one in that spot and a third just over the threshold because that's the only available space left. I can get 3 pallets on the hydraulic lift, so I go get another set. I get back after a few minutes and the last pallet was still there. The Karen told me she would only pick it up if I would set it around the corner because she couldn't get it to there. A clear lie, and she's tried something like that before. It's a total power play on her part, getting me to do something she should do herself, even if it takes me 3 times longer. So I grab her pallet lift and stick it under the pallet. See? Looks fine to me. Please just work with me. And that's how the argument started. If I don't like my job, I should go do something else, she said. I told her that if she would just work with her drivers and not against, she wouldn't have a problem with people not wanting to do extras for her. She started name-calling and gave me the finger. And I just left everything as it was and drove off, leaving her to get the other 3 pallets from outside up the slope into the store. Didn't bother asking her to sign the papers because of obvious reasons. No one treats me like that and gets away with it. I hope I don't get into serious trouble. This happened a few hours ago and my employer has yet to read my email about it. 10 for 10 would do it again, though. And our last story. And then they realized they effed up. Worked 9 years at a well-known company, worldwide provider of various products. Won't name this company, but it was a division of this company I worked for. I started at this company at the bottom as a tech, did my job well, and excelled upwards. After 6 years, I was promoted into the national support group and also then excelled at this position. It was well paid and salary, which was very nice in pay, and the hours were great. After a year in the new position, I was promoted to a co-operator position, which I shared with another, which we were very good friends and got along very well. To this day, we still do lunches and chat quite frequently. Now I was trained up on the in-house software that runs the dispatching of techs, which was made by an in-house software developer, which the software used codes for areas and states. Very complex, but for him it worked. Though no documentation whatsoever, no manual, nothing. The guy that had the position before me was leaving the company for a better offer, so he took a month to train me on this software. And of course I wrote down all the codes for all the areas, just so I didn't get anything wrong, since there was no manual or instructions. He leaves the company. A year later, the developer of this software dies from cancer, so now no one but myself knows how to use this software. And taking vacations were far and in between due to this issue. I constantly ask for a backup to be trained so they can do this job while I go on vacation. At this point, I could only take 2 days at a time for vacation, and my wedding was upcoming in 8 months, and we were taking a month-long honeymoon. No, got denied every time I requested a replacement to be trained. When my co-operator and I took over this new department, it was in shambles. Our turnover for repairs was sitting around 8 days, which upset a lot of customers due to these machines being used constantly during work hours. We brainstormed and came up with solutions to fix this and reduce times down dramatically. The bad thing about this is that it put extreme pressure on logistics to get parts overnighted to techs in the field, which logistics manager was okay with, which he in turn hired enough guys to take his burden on and was working out pretty well. This turned out to be great. We reduced our downtime from 8 days to an average of 2 days. Customers commented constantly about how much better our service was and how they were definitely happy with how their repairs were going. Then it starts to go south from this point. My manager was looking to move up the ladder and needed to hire someone for his position. Of course, me and my co-operator apply for the position since we know how to run this division and think we could do the job great. We both get overlooked for manager's friend, which he had no experience in the division whatsoever. He was actually one of the logistics purchasers. He had no idea whatsoever how to run our department, nor any technical experience whatsoever. He, of course, gets this position, and right off the bat, this stupid idiot wants to change how we do things and reduce the strain on the logistics group. Co-operator and myself immediately protest and oppose his changes with prejudice and vigor, though this fell on deaf ears. When he tells us to implement the changes, I refuse, and so does my co-operator. For weeks, we argue with the manager's friend, who's now my manager, and he gets upset and continuously fights with us to make the changes. We again refuse. I emailed his manager and explained the situation and pointed out that it would increase repairs and our customers would be very unhappy. At this time, we grew the base of our customers 20-fold, and our satisfaction rating on all our reviews were in the upper 90s, though these emails and everything that co-operator and I were explaining went on deaf ears. At this point, manager's friend feels that I'm the instigator of the disobedience, and that week I was called into a conference room with HR, manager's friend, and his manager. They informed me I was going to be demoted from operator to dispatcher due to my inability to be a team player and confrontational to my manager, etc., etc. So I said, fine with me. Meant less work and same pay, so I'm okay with this. Now, with this job, you had certain functions of the job that you could and could not do. You could only do what was assigned to you for that job description. Dispatchers could only dispatch calls to techs and not assign their own calls. That was my previous job. My co-operator at the time was in charge of escalations and onboarding techs and did not know the system I used to dispatch these calls. Next day, I come in and sit at my desk, waiting for calls to be put on my board, knowing that there was now no one to dispatch calls to the dispatchers. After about 4 hours, I get approached by manager's friend asking why I was not dispatching calls to everyone. I politely said, remember, I got demoted. I can't dispatch, it's not part of my job description, and I don't want to be fired for doing something that I'm not allowed to do. The dread on his face could be seen as it streaks up his back and hits him full force. At this point, he realizes he just effed up. Of course, his manager and HR did not know anything about this software that was developed in-house and had no instructions on how to use it. It was the backbone of this division's dispatching software. Without this, no calls could be dispatched whatsoever. The news is now getting around that no calls are being dispatched, and manager's friend's manager now enters and asks what's going on. He soon realizes as well what happened. They then call me back into the conference room and ask me to train a replacement. Of course, I refuse. The day ends and I go home. Next morning, I show up for work on the dot, and they call me back in yet again, offering my position back and to please start dispatching calls as soon as possible. Of course, I refuse the promotion, pointing out key points that they brought up during my demotion meeting on why they were demoting me. And because of those points, I felt I had to overcome them in order to be able to accept the promotion, and it'd be a great time to focus on my abilities that they outlined. They were flabbergasted and frustrated, clearly. They get upset and tell me that I'm holding the company hostage and that they'll have to take me to court. At this point, per my contract, I'm now entitled to a lawyer and they have to pay. A few days go by, of course, no calls being dispatched. They're now relying on emails and phone calls to get calls dispatched and parts ordered, and it's pandemonium abound. It's adding so much more time to each call, and ordering parts, the whole system is falling apart. I finally get contacted by a lawyer telling me that he is to represent me and that he's being paid by the company I work for, but that he works for me, period, that he cannot talk to them without my knowledge, he cannot do anything against my own interests, and that he's being paid by them but works for me. He goes on to tell me that they can't force me to take a promotion and they can't fire me if I fulfill my obligations of the employment contract, which was pretty easy, basically just show up on time, take breaks in specified time, and leave at specified time. So I do. This goes on for a month, and they're finally getting to the breaking point. Repairs are exceeding 2 weeks, and customers are canceling their repair contracts due to service issues. They decided to demote me again to logistics. Now, the manager of logistics is a good friend, and he thinks this is retaliation for all these issues, So he just says to me to take a desk over in the corner and do my thing, whatever I wanted. He wasn't going to punish me for their stupidity. We go to court, they present their case, and my lawyer presents mine. After 2 days, the judge rules in favor of me and says that the company cannot force me into a job or doing a job that I do not wish, and this would be considered enslavement. They press the judge to have me turn over the information to run the software that runs their division. The judge asked me if I'd written it down. At this point, I didn't have it. I threw it away, so I answered honestly to the judge, though I did say I do remember how to use it and all the codes to dispatch. Since I did it for years, it became like second nature. Judge asked me if I would be willing to write down the instructions. I politely said no. Judge said, "Okay, that's that then." Upon coming back to work the next day, I decided to start looking for another job. After about a month, I found a new position at another company, making 10% more and with better options, and also agreed to give the month off with salary for my honeymoon. So I wrote up a resignation letter and sent it to my manager, his manager, and the senior staff of the division, and also the CEO of the company, explaining everything that went on and why I was leaving the company, and wished them the best. That Friday, I packed up my personal stuff and left. 2 weeks later, I get a call from the CEO of the company apologizing for what happened and that all this information just came to light and that the individuals involved were terminated. Manager's friend and his manager and the one above him, which was sweet to my ears, and offered my job back. I politely declined. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.